joining us, you're watching the conversation right here on Lagos television. The conversation now is the cost of living in Lagos. Now, by way of introduction, the rising cost of living in Lagos continues to place increasing pressure on household and small businesses as inflation, energy cost, and currency fluctuations reshape daily survival. From food prices to transportation fares and housing, many residents say their purchasing power has significantly declined, forcing difficult choices and lifestyle adjustments. While government interventions aim to cushion the effect, questions remain about their reach, sustainability, and real impact on the average Lagosians. This morning, we will try to examine the drivers of this cost of living surge, its implication for economic stability, and what practical solutions exist moving forward. Joining me is a social affairs commentator and a friend of the house, Mr. Nelson Ekujumi. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good
So,
morning, viewers.
so the first question is, how would you assess the current cost of living situation in Lagos? Let me just put it like, then perhaps we begin to dive deep into the conversation.
Well, as somebody who has lived his life, all his life in Lagos, I can tell you for free, it's been tough, but like you have rightly mentioned, we are adjusting to the realities of the time. And when you look at the whole indices, there's not one that is friendly. Is it in terms of rent? Is it in terms of transportation? Is it in terms of energy costs? Is it in terms of food stuff, prices? You name it. So, as a Lagosian, as a Nigerian, one knows very well that the issue of rising cost of living is not peculiar to Lagos alone. It's a global phenomenon because of the realities we live in today. I remember vividly well as a young man when I was in the university and we were about graduating and we were discussing, and somebody said if they offer him a job of 500,000 naira
You will not accept.
in Lagos and a 50,000 naira in Ibadan, that he would rather live in Ibadan with that 50,000 and live in peace than the hustle and bustle of that. He's not sure he can survive in Lagos. But for those of us who have lived all our life in Lagos, even if you offer us 50,000 in Lagos and 500,000 in Ibadan, it's a mixed bag. So we remain here. So it's been tough, but the reality is that as a human being, you just have to cope in order to be able to sustain yourself and your family.
Are there other factors apart from the ones that we know, perhaps energy cost? We know that recent times there's been epileptic power supply or other drivers that has necessitated landlords to be extremely brutal with house rents in Lagos. All those commercial drivers not even waiting for any kind of reprieve before jacking up their cost of...
Well, one of the drivers that has affected negatively the cost of living in Lagos is the level of development in Lagos today. I live in an environment, as I speak to you, I live in an environment, and I've had reports from other Lagosians whom when they got into that environment, the roads were not motorable. The motorable part of it was full of potholes. But lo and behold, the state and the local government, because of the delivery of democratic dividends, changed the face of the community and the environment. And before you could say Jack Robinson, the cost of rent went up by almost 500%. Then when you talk about energy costs, for example, you recognize that even for leisure, things that we ordinarily buy for XY amount, somebody will tell you if there was epileptic power supply, we needed to, go and get things to ice the drink. You are paying double the price. Then you also look at the cost of living as it affects you, also affects organizations or institutions supplying services. For example, you look at the environmental evacuation cost. At a point in time, in some environments, a room or a flat was less than 500 naira a month to evacuate refuse. But the refuse collector these days collect as much as 3 to 5,000 naira per month, because the refuse collector will tell you the cost of diesel when it was 250 a month is not the same with the cost of diesel now. So he has to ensure that he keeps himself in business. So a lot of other factors, but those factors are affecting whether you are the rich or you are the poor. Everybody is affected.
Okay, perhaps the likely question is how to get out of this logjam, because one, even before we get to that, I know there are government interventions to cushion the effect. I was listening to one short, Agege local government, how Lagos State, I know Lagos State government does it too, where you have mini markets where you have subsidized food, and where you pay, instead of paying maybe 10 naira for a crate of egg, you pay half
That's
of it.
It was by the Lagos State government.
I saw that Agege too is also local government. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just saw it somewhere briefly. So how does, because the bottom line is it's a tough pill to swallow, where you have,
but you have to swallow
where
it.
you earn your salary isn't increasing.
It's fixed.
It's fixed, and you have so many demands staring you in the face. Yeah. School fees too is also there.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're also jacking that up astronomically.
It's the reality.
So how do people? Sorry, I have to go back. How do people survive in Lagos? Because it's like, okay, don't let me even try to answer that. How do people survive in Lagos? Because it's absolutely, it's an experience that is difficult to go through.
Well, how we survive in Lagos is because Lagos are very resilient people. And don't also forget that in the time past, we had families where only the man would be the breadwinner. But the economic situation globally has changed that mindset with families. Everybody has to, contribute. You have to contribute your quota, no matter how small. And looking at government intervention, really, I must confess that, for example, when the fuel subsidy was removed, the reaction of the economic reaction to the prices of things, everything that we as human beings were involved with, changed, and it increased astronomically. So the Lagos State government came in with the 25% food subsidy. And I also remember that in my local government, which is Orile Agege and Agege, there was a 50%, yes, there was a 50% reduction, subsidy for food, and the local governments were doing that. But be that as it may, I think it is important for us all to recognize one thing, and it is the fact that the global cost of energy all over the world today, everybody is going through that pains. And we have to start thinking of alternatives. And what are the alternatives? The alternative is green energy. For example, as I sit before you in my home, I sat down and I did the arithmetic. I recognized that I cannot sustain powering my home with generator any longer. So I gathered small money. I purchased an inverter. With an inverter, I got a solar. So while there might be fluctuations in electricity supply, that's green energy that cost me maybe some huge sum of money, not too much, has come to my rescue. Because when I buy fuel, because of the nature of my work, I must have electricity at least some number of hours a day for me to keep abreast of happening. So no matter what, I will eke out the money to have a power supply into my residence. And also, you look at transportation, for example. We have seen the intervention of the federal government with regards to CNG. And we have seen that the CNG has been assessed commercial vehicle operators, maybe Uber, Bolt, taxis, commercial, danfo or korokwe or whatever we call it. But sadly, they have not allowed it to reflect in the price of movement of people and goods. You enter a korokwe, you see a CNG cylinder there. And you know this person is buying a CNG, what's the name of that gas called? The CNG gas. He's buying it for less than 40 naira per, is it CPM or I can't remember. Let's say per liter. And he's charging you the same amount that another korokwe that doesn't have a CNG cylinder that has bought fuel at 1,000, maybe 1,200, and you ask, why were these people assessed this benefit of conversion free? A conversion that would have cost them over ₦1 million. Government allowed them free. Then the state governments and the local governments, I think there's need for them to also key into that alternative energy. Because if we remove the cost of transportation or the cost of energy, be it electricity, be it transportation, out of the burden of cost of living, it will go a long way in easing our burden. That is a fact. Then you talk about housing, for example. Because I'm a landlord, as I said before you, I say it. If government have not assessed me loan, grants, materials to build my house, it will be difficult for government to tell me
how much you fix that.
It will be, yes.
Aside of the cost of living in Lagos State. Because when you go to certain areas, if not every part of Lagos, what landlords are charging tenants is I'm trying to be mindful of my word.
Please do.
What they charge these days is out of this world. And we all know that the cost of living or what the purchasing power of people is not much, looking at the situation of the economy. I'm aware that we also have a tenancy law right here in Lagos State. We have a tenancy law right here in Lagos State. So when government comes to your area, they tar roads, they provide hospitals, landlords like you usually capitalize on amenities like that to increase their rent. Why?
Well, the fact is that, like our people usually say, whatever you have, it's whatever you use to take advantage to make life pleasurable. Yes, that is you see, we are
so you are taking advantage of the tenants.
Just hold on, Jibola. We are talking realistically now because, like I told you, I live in this environment and I've had situations to discuss with people. And if I've not built a house for somebody and you want to tell him how to relate with his tenants, maybe in terms of rent or what have you, you are wasting your time. The man will tell you if you are not satisfied, you can move away from it. You should move away. But the thing there is that as much as we landlords are taking advantage of the developmental infrastructures
provided by government
to say, this environment looked like a bush, but now it's like a new London. So the rent must reflect new London. Yes, that's the thing. Where I live in Agege, my rent was increased by almost 200%. And I was like, this is too much now. But you know one thing, as much as I appreciate government intervention in trying to checkmate all these excesses by landlords, I think it is important for us ourselves to talk to one another. That is it fair? Because if I assume that, government has started the road, government has provided solar street lights everywhere. In fact, on my streets now, on holidays, children have turned it into a football pitch. People do exercises and what have you because the road is now, conducive for you to, do your normal human activities on. So, if because government has done that, we are now taking advantage, I don't think it is fair. So, I think that's why I said our counseling ourselves is not about government making the laws. Like where my own accommodation where I say I'm a landlord, I don't increase my rent that way. Because at times when you look at it, in fact, I have an uncle whose tenants have been unable to pay, who are in arrears. And the man, with, if you ask him that, uncle, this man is owing you almost 2 years, the man will tell you when things were okay with him, he was faithful. So let us allow him. With time,
such people are rare.
Such people are rare. So that is the type of people we want, we need, you know. But there are some.
Are you that type?
Oh, absolutely, I am. Yes.
Okay. Well, only your tenants can tell us that.
No.
Or can confirm.
You see, I'm sure. I don't know if one of them is watching me. There's one as I speak. He's in arrears of close to a year and a half or 2.
Wow.
And somebody was telling me that, no, why should I be allowing this? And, you know, fortunately for her, she's a widow.
Oh.
So I said, if I tell this woman to go out of this house now, well, do you want her to become a prostitute to be able to take care of the children? Not to talk of providing somewhere for them to lay their heads. As I'm speaking to you, I won't mention name. It's not appropriate. I have tenants who are in arrears of 2 years. You know, it's easy for you to accommodate a tenant into your house, but for you to, for somebody of my status, you know, for somebody, if you hear that I go it will ring a bell everywhere. So I'm always very careful. So that when tomorrow I'm here speaking, when that person is watching me, we'll say, okay, that man truly is a God-fearing man. But when I come here and say opposite of what I do, definitely my conscience will be judging me.
Nelson must be Jesus.
No, I'm not Jesus. No, I'm not Jesus. I'm not.
Okay. What do you recommend? Because there's a dilemma here. You have a situation where cost of living has dissipated the income, the earnings of those who Lagos residents. Yes. What do you suggest? Because the alternative is either the thing comes down, because what we have realized in Lagos is when prices or cost of anything goes up, having it come down is a difficult thing. However, what do you suggest? Do you believe for us to still stay in this Lagos and not get out of Lagos, alternative sources of income is the way to go? Because you mentioned something, maybe I should even just look for your trouble a little bit. You said, look, it's going green. You said you have to gather small money. What is the small money that you gathered?
Okay, you see,
because I have an idea. I use solar.
Yes,
I use solar. So what is the small money that you gather to get how many batteries and inverter?
I agree with you. That small money is a huge money to some persons.
Okay.
You know, like we always say, all fingers are not equal.
Okay.
Yeah. And that small money that I'm talking about, that you want me to expatiate further.
They just mentioned, you said because we need to go green.
Yes. That's small money that you want me to expatiate further. I'm sure you know to some people it's chicken change. I'm sure you know. It's
true.
Yes.
True,
but to some, it's a lifesaver.
Yes.
It's about life and eternity savings. Yes. So let us keep it at that. Don't let me provoke people who
are on band A.
Who are watching us.
Yes.
But the way out for me is that I want to admonish states and local governments to look at these indices that is responsible for astronomical cost of living in Lagos. We talk, for example, look at what the Lagos State government has done with regards to the food hub in Mushi. If the local government themselves can invest in agriculture, I don't know whether it is partnership or whatever, and they have a market where they interface with even marketers to come and take these things at a price, you know, because when government comes in and it is in bulk, the price will definitely go down. Then you talk about the cost of energy now. I've also mentioned it, that one of the ways out is for states to invest more and the local government to invest more in CNG. The CNG investment we have seen across the country has been majorly by the federal government and some private companies in the oil industry. I don't want to mention their name, you know. So there is need for state, like for example, I'm aware that the Lagos state government today has an oil and gas company. So
Yes.
that oil and gas company, let them open up more outlets. A lot of us want to convert our vehicles to CNG, but the initial cost of conversion is driving some of us away. So it has become so bad that when we buy fuel into our cars, instead of us looking forward to be able to drive safely, we are monitoring the tank, the fuel meter. We look at it, it has dropped by another point. Hey, this fuel is going down. So it's the risk of us being involved in accident is very high. Because when you cover 40,000, 50,000 to buy a half tank,
yes.
yeah, at times you feel like you should put off the engine and be pushing the vehicle to take you to your destination. It is that bad. Then the issue about logistics, like I said, we are talking about those of us that have cars. But how about those that are commuting public transport-wise? There's need for the states and the local government to interface with the NURTW and other transport unions to say, come, if we have given you this, at least let people feel the impact of the benefits you have gained from government. But when you get these benefits from government and you are behaving as if everything you are using, you source it from yourself alone, it's not helping the society. Then you talk about rents. We talk about rents. Then we also talked about schools. I'm afraid for the schools, you know, a lot of these schools are private sector driven. And when they are private sector driven, they want to outshine one another. And those working there or the facilities they are using, nothing comes there free. They have to pay for them. In some of those schools, they have to provide generator that, you know, provides a conducive learning environment for the children. And the energy cost for that machine, you know, it has to be passed on to the final consumer, who are the parents of these kids. Except another advice is that government should make like for in Lagos, I can beat my chest and tell you clearly that the environment for learning in Lagos, even in our public schools, a lot of them is, you know, the level is very commendable. We might have some, you know, minuses here and there. It's natural for human beings. But most importantly, in terms of energy, there's need for the governments at the 2 tiers to come and invest more in it so that that energy cost will come down. There's need for us also in terms of housing. For government, it's not only about making laws, it's also about engaging and looking at, look, this thing is not fair. Government cannot tell you not to increase your rent, but even you know the law sets a certain limit to where you can increase the rent, you know. But you and I know as human beings, there's always a way out for you to, you know, talk with your tenants or your landlords.
My final question is, presently, if you check the temperature of Mr. President, or better still, his utterances in the past couple of years, it's all about let the poor breathe.
Yeah.
And he's very particular about letting local government earn what they are due.
Yeah.
And his belief is with the local government earning money, that wealth will cascade to the grassroots.
Yeah.
Because there's no federal government if there isn't a local government. There's no your immediate environment. Your immediate environment resides is the closest, is in a local government. Yeah. How do you think, with some state government abiding by this, because presently you can't even conduct elections in local government, or you can't, if you don't do the right thing, money won't be disbursed to you, your local government. Yeah. So how do you think local government earning more now, earning not as if they don't earn before, but now they have some kind of level of autonomy with the money that they get? How do you think that can translate to easing the burden on the people? What do local government or local council development authorities, what should they do to ensure that people feel there's some kind of amelioration happening at the grassroots?
Well, the fact of the matter today is that states and local governments, I don't think since the birth of this democratic dispensation, they have had it this good since 1999. Now, states and local governments are getting 3 to 4 times allocations that they used to receive. For example, because of the level of quantum of federal allocation now, state governments in some local governments are venturing into projects that even states before this administration dare not go into. I say it with all sense of responsibility. I remember at a point in time, we approached the Lagos state government to solarize the public roads, solar power, street lights. That was under the administration of Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola. The government said they didn't have the funds to do that. But my local government alone was able to provide solar street lights of about 2,500. Only one local government. So what we need to do now is for us as citizens as well as civil society organizations to start holding the local governments account. They are receiving humongous amount of money every month now.
When you say hold them accountable, how do we do that?
How we do that is that when we know the revenue that comes, it's usually published monthly. We should be able to say, okay, Mr. Chairman, 800. You have received 800 million this month of the month of February. We're in March. Where is it? What have you done with it? So the local governments today should be able to invest in projects that will. I'm talking about energy, for example, CNG gas stations, training mechanics on our local governments can undertake it. They have local government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu today. Some local governments in the oil-producing communities, in the oil-producing states, are receiving about 1.4 billion naira in a month. That was an allocation that states before this administration couldn't get in 3 months altogether. So the level of the allocation coming to local government now, we should be asking questions. But are we doing that? Rather, right now you said, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, we should allow the poor to breathe. Is it only one tier of government we have? Where are the state government? What are they doing to impact the standard of living of the people? What are the local governments doing? Because every level of government has a responsibility to the security and welfare of the citizens. Like where I live, the first air of alleviation or air of peace I will enjoy will come directly from my local government before I know there's a government in Alausa. Because my local government is just right behind my window. So local governments now today, because of the allocations they are receiving, we should be able to hold them accountable and be asking them questions. Because as a social scientist, one thing I know for free is that societies that have made progress, go and look at history, are societies in which people have not kept mute. People have always been talking. Okay.
And on that note, where we don't keep quiet, I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Nelson Ekujumi, for not keeping quiet on issue that borders on our cost of living. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Hopefully we can have you back and talk about how far our local government are faring, or better still, whether our living condition has improved.
No problem.
Okay, we'll take a very short break. The conversation continues as we wrap it up after this break.